So, hi. Please introduce yourself with your first name and what you do here at UConn.
Okay. Hi, my name is Fiorella Hidalgo, and I'm currently working for the Center for Access and Post-Secondary Success. Also, Student Support Services as a counselor.
Okay. So, I'm sorry I call you Fio, but sorry, Fiorella. Can you please walk me through a little bit of your background? Like, how did you come to be here at UConn? Was this always a passion for you to work with like children? Like, just give me a little bit of your background.
Absolutely. So I actually graduated from UConn, so I'm an alum. I graduated back in 2012 with a communication science degree. So I wanted to be a speech pathologist before. But when I graduated, I started working and I started working for a nonprofit, basically in a domestic violence program. And some of the things that I was actually doing with my clients we're either helping them go back to school, filling out paperwork, helping them with financial aid. And I think it was during that time when I wasn't really thinking about going back to school for my master's program. And I was debating whether I wanted to go back and continue with the speech pathologist program or if there was something else that I also was very interested. But my calling was always helping students and helping and going back to the helping the community and just kind of being in the school system overall. So decided to continue my master's program, but this time around was in school counseling and graduated with my master's. I actually went to CCSU, to Central Connecticut State University. Then I got my master's, started working in community colleges, and I was really hoping to go back to UConn and kind of did a full circle. And I came back to UConn and I started working for the PASS program, which was promoting academically successful students within the SSS program. And then I became a counselor, and I've been working here for about almost 4 years now. So I'm very blessed and very thankful to be able to come back and then be part of this community that I truly adore.
Okay, good. Okay. So you said you worked for PASS and you also mentioned SSS, which is Student Support Services. And then you also mentioned, was it ACES?
So I was in, right. So SSS, I did ACES as well, and the PASS program, and now CAPS
Now
overall.
CAPS. Okay.
Yes.
So walk me through a little bit about each of those roles. How are they different? What were like your responsibilities? What were slash are your responsibilities, etc.
Yeah. So basically, in the past program, when I started working as a staff at UConn, in the past program, my role was basically be the coordinator for the program. So I was coordinating a lot of support and guidance for students who were on academic probation or academic dismissal. It's a federal grant program. So basically, I had to do a lot of recruitment, had to do a lot of paperwork. I had to basically set up a lot of events for the students, whether it was academic, professional, personal. And also, I was teaching a unit class, which was called the Personal for Mindset and Personal Growth. So that class met once a week, and basically the learning lessons were created to support students that were maybe, struggling academically, but overall just kind of finding their way academic in navigating college. Then I was also helping out with the summer program and basically putting together success seminars, teaching team meetings, and also just kind of looking into more about like putting together a curriculum for the unit courses during the summer program. Then I started working as an SSS counselor, and basically my roles are to help the students. We go from registration appointments to just kind of overall looking at the holistic approach from a student who's navigating college as a first gen coming from minority backgrounds, and just looking into, getting more resources and creating accessibility for everyone who really wants to do and achieve their dreams academically.
Okay. So how was kind of the transition for all of the jobs, different fields you worked in, kind of with you being like ACES, CAPS, PASS, etc. How was the transition between the roles that you had to take on?
Yeah, so I mean, it was fun, but sometimes we had, it could be challenging because there's a lot of different things that we have to remember, especially when it comes to registration appointments. There's like lots of courses and requirements for programs. But I think the fun part was really getting to know the student and really getting to know more about their stories. What are some things that they really want to achieve? What are their goals? What are some things that they really want to do? Whether here in their undergrad or post-graduation life. To me, it's important to know their story and their background and know more about their families and what are some things that they really enjoy doing in college. The good thing about and the blessing about being in CAPS is that we look at the holistic approach, not only academically, but also a personal well-being. So I think the transition was in a way very easy, but it's also sometimes challenging because there were so many different rules and regulations that we have to abide by. But at the end of the day, we all do it for the student and to make sure that we're all meeting their needs and the program requirements as well.
Okay. So before I talk about students, I kind
Yeah.
of just want to go back a little bit. I know you mentioned that, you were helping with building curriculum for the UNIF courses. How was that? Like, what were your strategies that you focused on when, forming these curriculums? How did you decipher, what to add or what's going to be the most effective for the students?
Yeah, so basically, we go back to the main source, which is the student, right? We ask them to see what are some things that they really need, some things that they really want to see in the course and the class. We really want to focus on what are their needs, what are some things that they're going to help, not only in, navigating college in their undergrad, but something that they can also implement or put into practice when, their post graduation life, whether we go from professional development and working on their elevator pitch or their interview skills to how their mindset is, how confident are they feeling about going after something or getting out of their comfort zone when it comes to maybe applying to a program. So we really look into that mental well-being, that holistic approach. So really, it's going back to the student, is going back to what their needs are, being very creative with that. We also find that a lot of the times, the learning happens inside and outside of the classroom, and it's not always a standard learning style. So we like to incorporate a lot of different things, whether that is hands-on activities or different ways to kind of approach a topic, whether that is a presentation, a video, a podcast. So we like to kind of go and explore and just kind of see what kind of works for the population that we work with.
Okay, so yeah, I kind of want to touch based on that creativity aspect that you mentioned because I know I am a student myself, so I know sometimes it might be a little bit harder to grasp your audience attention for a long time span. So I kind of wanted you to just touch a little bit more on like the creativity aspect. Like, what aspect did you feel was like the best way to get the students to engage, and how did you come up with that? Was it just surveys based off the students, or was it based off observation during, your teachings?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. I think it was observation, surveys, really conversations with the students, and really getting to know more about what is it that they enjoy in class. I come from a student population where back then it was all lecture based. You sitting in class for 3 hours, and you have to be quick at taking notes. But I think we're moving into a new trend where we have the resources to be able to utilize, whether that is creating a video, or maybe the students actually taking the initiative and creating their learning lesson plans with the instructor. So doing and bringing a lot of resources, a lot of activities into the classroom, and just being able to just get out of our comfort zone when it comes to like being the teacher and the student. I think learning happens when we actually get out of our comfort zone and we put ourselves into that. And then that also actually help us change our mentality as far as how we learn, how we actually do things as a human being. And also try to remember that although I'm the teacher, I'm also a student because I'm learning from the students as well. And I wouldn't like to be sitting in a classroom for 3 hours. So I like to kind of get up and do some movements, whether that is we start with some icebreakers or some things that we can have fun in the classroom, remember our names, and just kind of get to know the student a little bit more because that creates a building and that creates a community. And I think that's what we want to have, overall in the classroom.
Okay, so I know you said that you are also an SSS advisor slash mentoring. Um, Walk me through a little bit about that. Like, how does that seem to be a little bit different from you doing your teachings? I know you said, building the relationship in and out the classroom is very important for you with your students. So with the students that are advising who don't seem to always book appointments or et cetera, how do you kind of engage with them?
Yeah, there's always an opportunity to do some engagement, whether that is in my office, outside of the classroom, in the hallway, at the union, everywhere, right? So I think also as we're moving into this new trend where technology is so accessible for us, I try to utilize everything that I have to be able to communicate with the student, whether that is having a conversation, whether it's just checking in or just saying hello. I think going back to really taking the time to get to know the student is the number one thing that has been helping me to establish that relationship, and getting to know their stories. I think there's nothing more important than just getting to know a human being by the good and the bad. But what are some things? What are some challenges? What are some, celebrating their victories and really getting to know the community that you work with. At the end of the day, CAPS, it's a family, and we like to say that this it's a home away from home. And Esther says there's a lot of different things and puts a lot of events. So I try to also be creative when it comes to social events and just kind of having and creating a space and that is welcoming to everyone, that everyone can explore their talents, whether that is dancing, playing musical instruments, singing, painting, but every interaction and every opportunity that I have to create that bonding and relationship with the student, I will take it because it doesn't necessarily happen when you're talking about picking a chemistry course over a math course. It happens anywhere, anytime. So
Okay. So I know you mentioned that, you first started working care almost 4 years ago. How is the changes now? I know that you're a little bit more into it. What have you learned over the course of the 4 years?
yeah, I always like to say that I am I lead by example, right? When I started working, I probably didn't know as much as I know now, but I always wanted to do it for my students and to show them that the only way to get to the next level, the next thing where we want to be is by putting ourselves out there, by taking on different roles, by challenging ourselves, because that's when the learning happens. So I want to say that it's also been good and it's been challenging for me because I had to do all other things that I didn't even imagine that I could do. But I've been loving every semester where I learned so much about the students that I work with and so much about myself. I always try to remember that I'm also a student, I'm also a human being, that I have my flaws and I have my strengths and my weaknesses. But every opportunity I have to really put myself out there and learn something new, I will use that example to even teach my students that it's possible to do it. We like to go back and reflect back at every area in our life, like the same thing I do with my students, and celebrate those things and moments where we probably did something good that we didn't think we were capable of doing, whether it's something really, really small to something big, and celebrating every accomplishment because I don't think we do that enough. And I think in college it's hard. It's a it's not it's challenging, it's hard, but also at the same time it's wonderful because you create so many memories and you grow so much as a person, that it's really worth celebrating.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit, or talk to me rather, a little bit about, the challenges that you face, with SSS advising, with also doing CAPS, with PASS. What were a little bit of the challenges that you faced, either dealing with, other students or, internally?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest challenges is not having enough time to do everything that I want to do. Whether that is actually also taking the time to really create those bonding relationships with my colleagues. Sometimes we have so much going on and so much paperwork to do that really gets us out of that, time where it's time for creativity, time to talk to a colleague and maybe brainstorm ideas. Or maybe that also happens with students, right? Attending their groups, attending an event that they're putting together. So one of my biggest challenges, and I will say it, be completely honest, sometimes it's time management, right? Making sure that I'm organizing my time in a way that I can attend and do everything that I want to accomplish in a day. But I've been also working on that, and I've been trying to set my priorities straight. And every semester is a learning opportunity for me to be able to do that. And challenges when it comes to working with students, I think sometimes could be, really having the time to also work with them and see them on a daily basis or every other week. We have a very high caseload, and sometimes it's hard to have those even 10-minute conversations with everyone. So, and this is how I go back to like every interaction, even if it's in the hallway, the dining hall, it's so important because that's another way of kind of checking in with them. So in a way, you also try to be creative with some of the challenges you have, but also use the resources you have in place to be able to make your job a little bit easier and your life a lot more sweeter.
Um, I was going to attest to that, what you said about, in and out, trying to reach out via email or, through just different ways that you see them either walking on campus, etc. Since, you first started 4 years ago, and now, would you say that you have more students to look after and you're a little bit more busier now? How do you deal with that now? Because maybe back then 4 years ago you were able to, sit down with all of your SSS advisees and have those conversations. So, like, how does it feel now not being able to do so because, you might be a little bit more busy?
Yeah, it's hard. It definitely is hard, and that's something that I struggle with, and I always have such a hard time with because I love to speak to every student that I work with, just to kind of see how things are going on, if to tell me about classes, how their day is going. So it's hard to manage time and just to be able to speak to everyone or just kind of see and welcome them back to a new semester. So definitely something that I'm working on. But I'm also happy to, when I see a student and I see their friends and I'm like, hey, say hi to this person for me, or if you see them, please tell them to come see me. I'm always thinking about my students like they're my family, and that's something that I always they're very near to my heart, so I always try to make some time to make that possible regardless.
Okay, this is like a personal question, just that I wanted to know. Have you ever like considered maybe putting together like your own little SSS party for all your advisees?
Yes, always. I always try to think about what can I do to get everyone together. And I know sometimes it's hard because they all have a lot of things going on. And I want to be very mindful of their, schedules and commitments, but always thinking about doing something for them, because I know that life, sometimes gets in the way, right? But going back and just getting the group together and just kind of thinking and reflecting and celebrating everyone's accomplishment, right? Will be a great opportunity to do an event for them, and just to see them as a group and even reflect back at, when we started working together. So absolutely.
Just like another fun little question. You said you started working 4 years ago, so that
Yes.
means your first batch of students are almost out the door. How do you feel
Yes.
about that?
Oh, emotional. Emotional because I don't know. It's so they're so dear to my heart. So I'm very proud, very happy, very proud.
Okay. And then do you have anything that you feel like you want to say, any advice you want to give, or anything that I didn't touch on that you also want to share?
Yeah, the advice will be to always go after your dreams. It may not be the right time, it not may not have the all the resources you need, but somehow, some way, if you really, really want it, go after that dream. You're more than capable than you know, and sometimes lean on each other, lean on yourself to know that, and on me as well to support you and to help you. Although maybe my students are graduating and they're moving on and they're doing things, to know that there's always a very special place in my heart for everyone. And to know that this doesn't end like this, right? It's not, we're graduating and we're closing that chapter. It's the relationship will continue. And as we continue to grow together, that'll be a great opportunity to continue seeing everything that you guys will be doing. So
Okay, thank you so much for
you're
joining me
welcome.
today.